Hello and welcome. This is Manifestation Mastery Course video 42A, and today I'm going to be sharing with you about how to identify soul emptiness. Now, of course, your soul is not empty, but um, lots of times we have experiences, and some people more than others have the experience that they feel empty inside, chronically so. And this is a problem that has been getting worse over time for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is because we live in such a fractured society where we don't interact with each other, or we don't connect directly to nature. We are trapped in devices like phones and iPads and computers, the internet, YouTube, social media. The more that this takes over our society, the more we become disconnected from our identity, our true self, and the more this feeling of emptiness begins to overtake us. So, this is important to understand because if you're wanting to manifest your life, you have to have an identity, a sense of self from which to manifest. And so we're going to be talking about that today. I'm going to be going over the symptoms of soul emptiness, and maybe you will relate to some of these things, especially if you find it challenging to manifest your dreams. Um, and we're going to be talking about uh, what the source, the true source of this emptiness is, and why, if you have this chronic emptiness, why it can be extremely challenging to manifest. It's very important that you watch this whole video, because at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you where to go to watch another video where I'm going to give you the exact cures for this soul sickness, and you can begin the healing process so that you can create a strong identity from which to manifest. So before I go any further, please check out the links here, neo.thunderwizard.com, the 4 tools that you need in order to know how to master this universe, get this universe to obey you. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books, all of my DVDs, all of my streaming video courses, and my services like Vedic astrology and rune readings and everything you can find there. Subscribe, hit the bell button. And before we go any further, I would like to say thank you to my supporter, Grace Channeler. She is a supporter at thunderwizard.com at the producer level. And so I mentioned her, and if you want to check out her website, that's gracechanneler.com. If you would like to support this channel, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at either of the 2 producer level support subscriptions. And I will mention you and give people your website at the beginning of videos as well. All right, so let's talk about how to first identify if you have this emptiness within you. And it's important to understand, and this has been revolutionary for me. I have been practicing and teaching for decades now. And for the past almost 10 years, I have been teaching some very profound methods that I've learned about how to not only live the life of your dreams, have abundance and happiness, but also to be able to know how to intend your thoughts, your reality. Ideally, what you want is to get to the place where all 3 of your selves are lined up, your higher self, your lower self, and your middle self, where your soul is. To be able to know what your soul destiny is and to be able to be walking towards that. Many people don't know what their soul destiny is. God's will, your fate, however you want to look at it. I figured out ways to do that, and we talk about that in other videos. Today, we're not going to focus solely on that. But I've been doing this for a long time. And what I've found is that there are some people that I've worked with who I can't seem to find the way to help them to take action. And that's really the biggest thing. So in order to follow your true destiny and to have the universe open up to you like a supermarket and give you everything that you need to experience everything that you want, have everything that you want, have purpose in your life, you have to know what your soul desire is. We are all implanted from our own soul. Before we are born, our soul comes into manifestation like an avatar with a desire. Our lesson is what we would call the karmic challenges, where we have to continuously choose between what our soul wants and what our karmic lessons are. Okay, and that's the challenge. When people get confused, they end up in conflict. They end up in conflict between what their soul wants and wanting things from the world, wanting to fit into society, have your parents' love, your spouse's love, have money, have fame. And when you're in a conflict between what your soul wants to do and what your fear wants to do, then people don't know. They don't know what their soul desire is. So I help people come to the awareness of what their soul desire is. For that, you can go to, I believe it's the first or second tool at neo.thunderwizard.com, where I teach you how to find what I term as your perfect career. But let me be clear, your perfect career is nothing more than the universe paying you money to be your true authentic self. That's it. Your true authentic self is what your soul wants to do. So I'm good at doing that. And anybody who comes to me for a session, if you get an hour session with me for a career consultation, it's very easy for me to do, and I walk through the process of how to do that. And so far, I haven't had anybody where I wasn't able. In other words, I have been able to help everybody so far that has come to me find what their soul desire is. Getting them to act on it, totally different. That is up to you. I can't do it for you. I can tell you how to do it. I can give you support as you struggle through the challenges of stepping out fearlessly towards what you want and teaching you how to keep those mindsets. That's one of the reasons that people come to me as an apprentice, so I can teach them how to do that. But if you're not able to take action on what you know your soul wants to do, there's nothing I or anybody else can do for you. Now, this is in stark contrast to some of the more popular law of attraction teachings that are out there, which are incomplete. I want to be very clear on that. They're incomplete. And the incomplete teaching is all you have to do is focus your vibration, which means either your thoughts or your feelings, onto positive things. And if you are able to vibrate at a positive level, then the universe will reflect back to you positive things. And as I say it, now that I know, what I've been working on and discovering lately, I get this really horrible feeling in my gut. And the reason for that is because it's clear to me that that teaching by itself, when you have good feelings and good thoughts, good things come to you. If you have bad feelings or negative thoughts, negative things come to you. Again, I can feel it in my gut. That is such a toxic teaching. You're like, what? Why is that toxic? Why is it toxic to focus on love and light and happiness and good things? There is nothing toxic about that. What's toxic is that if you believe this, you believe that the universe is going to punish you if you're not happy and feeling good all the time. But the reality is that we have positive and negative feelings going through us all the time. That is a reality. We live in a dynamic universe. There was just a huge thunderstorm that came through where I'm at. And, is that a bad thing? No, it brings down the rain, but lightning and wind and all kinds of other things. Does it mean I want to be out in the rain and get struck by lightning? No, that would be a bad thing for me. But there's all kinds of fluctuations. Sometimes it's cold and snowy. Sometimes it's warm. Sometimes the weather's not healthy. Sometimes there's forest fires. Sometimes there's floods, famines. This is part of the dynamic balance within nature. Even before, if you want to start talking about global warming, which is a real issue, even before all that started happening, we still had, forest fires, famines, floods, wars. This is part of being in a dynamic balance. You have a dynamic balance within you, which means it is impossible, impractical, and irrational for you to expect to be happy all the time. Nobody can do that. And what's toxic about it is that what happens when you're not perfect? What happens if you don't have perfect thoughts and you don't have perfect feelings? Does that mean something negative is going to happen? If you believe what you're told, then yes, it's a very toxic, codependent way of functioning. Now, if you have a strong sense of identity, if you know who you are, then you are okay when people have negative feelings about you. Somebody has a negative feeling about you, you're not going to like it, but you can tolerate it, you can handle it, and in fact, you might even have the ability to put up your boundaries and say, you know what, that person feels such and such about me, but I know who I am. Have you heard people say that? They get criticized and people go, I know who I am. Those are the people who go on to take consistent action towards what they want, and they're successful. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a good example. He came here, didn't have any money, he didn't speak the language, he had a really bad accent. He wanted to be a movie star, like his heroes. He wanted to be a bodybuilder and a movie star, and he came here with those dreams, and everybody told him he couldn't make it. But he kept at it, and he didn't let anybody stop him. We could say that he was narcissistic and full of himself or whatever, but whatever you want to say about the guy, and I don't believe that for the most part. I think he's he may have those issues because you kind of have to be a movie star and Mr. Olympia and all that. But he gives speeches about how to overcome that, and people say, well, what do you do what about failure? And he says, what are you talking about? Yeah, you fail all the time. I've failed far more times than I've succeeded. This is somebody who has a strong sense of self. So when they're criticized, they go, you know what, I know who I am. And I'm going to do this anyway, even though everybody says I can't do it. But if you don't have that sense of self, then you will be a slave to whatever feeling gets thrown at you from other people. That's why the law of attraction, when it is taught incompletely, is toxic. Because that puts you completely vulnerable. If you aren't in a perfect mood, if your thoughts aren't perfect and positive and full of love and light and happiness and positivity and belief and faith, if you don't have those feelings, you are already assuming that you are going to be punished for not having the proper feeling. And that's what toxic parents do to children. Wipe that frown off your face. Stop crying or I'm going to hit you again. Toxic families, kids learn how to fake their feelings so as not to get punished or not to, they have to for their survival. So something has really, revolutionized it. There's been some things that have gone on in the past 6 weeks in my life that have opened me up to, I've gone into some of the darkest places within me yet. And I have become aware of some very deep-seated old pain, misery from way back in childhood. And it has now come to the surface, and I had no choice but to take a look at it. And it was horrible. But I feel enlightened now, because now I have a clearer understanding of what it is that actually allows us to be healthy, happy, and achieve enlightenment. And that is nothing more than having a clear identity, knowing what your identity is, an authentic identity within yourself, not a false identity, not a superficial identity, not the identity that everybody wants you to have. There's a lot of people walking around in the love and light category who have very good intentions, who want to be spiritual people, but they don't know who they are. So, it is true, your thoughts and your feelings can manifest things, but like your thoughts and feelings, whatever you manifest through your thoughts and your feelings disappear as fast as they appear. Because that's what feelings are. Feelings appear and disappear. Thoughts appear and disappear. And if you're putting that effort, and some people do, they put all their effort into that, trying to sort of mentalize into the world their thoughts and their feelings, and they try and manipulate themselves to always have positive, happy feelings so that they can. But if once you lose that happy feeling, whatever things that you've manifested from thoughts and feelings are going to disappear. And if you are dependent upon that, guess what happens? All of your negative thoughts, boom, you're going to create those. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to live like that. You don't have to monitor all of your feelings and all of your thoughts. You don't have to do that. You should be aware, be conscious of what your feelings are at all given time. The only thing you're required to do by the universe is to be conscious of all of your feelings, all of your thoughts, all of your motivations, and take constructive action. That means you have to take actions that are sometimes going to be directly opposite from what everything inside of you is telling you to do. Because you know the difference between simply having a feeling and knowing what is positive and constructive. That cannot happen if you don't have a sense of self. So if you have emptiness within you, it's because you're struggling to find your authentic self. So let's talk about some symptoms of identity emptiness, is what I'm going to call it. And let me be really clear. When you don't have a clear identity, what you have inside of your human experience is a big black hole. Now, some people, and this was true for me for much of my life, I could actually feel in my body there was a black hole. I can still feel it right now as I think about it, right here in my solar plexus. There's a big black hole that was just eating me from the inside out. Nothing filled it, no matter how much of whatever it was I thought was going to make me happy, no matter how much, it didn't fill it. And you've been in relationships like this, with what we call toxic or codependent or dysfunctional relationships, where no matter how hard you try, you can't get that person to meet your needs or to make them happy. And this pain inside of you, if I could just be this, if I could just do that, it would all be okay. They would love me. If I could just win the lottery, I'd be okay. If I could just have a car, if I could just have this job, if I could just have this, whatever it is. This is from having a soul emptiness, an identity. Your soul isn't empty, but your identity, your human identity, is either very damaged or non-existent. And so this prevents your ability to move forward. So let's look at some symptoms. And this way you can go through these. These aren't all the symptoms, but these are some of the biggest ones. You can go through this and you can ask yourself if this fits you. Fear of abandonment. If you have a fear that people are going to leave you, even before you've met them, that you're not going to be good enough, that nobody will like you, the people that you're with, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends, your co-workers, your parents, are you afraid that they're going to abandon you? This is one of the symptoms that you have a soul identity emptiness. If you have a fear of ghosts, demons, reptilians, the elite, the Illuminati, government, anybody with power, police. If you are somebody who obsesses over conspiracy theories. This is actually coming, this is a projection. What you're doing is you're projecting this feeling that you have that you are a helpless victim and that you don't have any power and you're not loved. And you project this out into the world and you see conspiracy theories everywhere. Listen, I'm not saying that there aren't conspiracies. What I am telling you is no matter what conspiracies exist, if you have a soul identity and you know what your soul desire is and you take fearless action, nothing can harm you. Nobody can touch you. It won't matter what's going on. You will be safe. You will be prosperous. Unless you live in that just on your thoughts and feelings. Those won't protect you. Your thoughts and your feelings won't protect you. Knowing who you are, taking action on that, you're bulletproof. Okay, so a third symptom would be intense social anxiety. Do you have difficulty being in groups of people? Do you have difficulty being out in the world? Do you have difficulty talking to strangers? Intense social anxiety means that you're not clear with yourself. You're not clear with yourself, you're going to be insecure around other people. Do you feel, here's another symptom. If you are an empath, if you are so empathic that you can feel everybody's feelings around you, this is actually a sign that your identity is weak. And this is something I've run into a lot. And there's a lot of people I know who think, not a lot of people I know, there's a lot of people who I've run into, who have come onto my channel, people that I've worked with, people that I've known, bumped into, who are very intuitive or believe that they're very intuitive. They may even believe that they're psychic. And they believe that this is a spiritual gift. And they'll even say things like, I'm so spiritually evolved, or I've got such a high spiritual vibration, I can't be around a lot of people because I can feel all their feelings. This is not a spiritual gift. This is a sign that your identity is weak. I'm not saying that there aren't people who have psychic and empathic abilities. That is definitely a spiritual tool that can be used for helping others. But when you don't have the ability to turn that on and off, it means that your identity is weak. And here's how this happens. And people will come to me and they'll talk about that. Well, what do you do when you can't turn off other people's feelings? What do you do when you can't go out in public? I'm so spiritually sensitive. What I say to them is, I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. But stop me if I'm wrong. You came from a very dysfunctional, painful childhood, right? Every time. Yes. Father was an alcoholic. Mother had maybe mental issues, abuse, maybe even trauma. What this creates is little kids, very little kids. Bear in mind that little kids, we're talking like infant to 4 years old, toddlers, infants and toddlers, they don't have an intellect, they don't have any sophisticated thinking, they don't have communication, they only have their feelings, their sensations, and they can pick up on everybody's unconscious vibration around them. And they have to do this in order to survive. Because a little baby, if mommy and daddy does not nurture them, take care of them, feed them, clothe them, the baby will die. Little toddlers, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, they'll die if mommy and daddy won't take care of them. So this is common. Now what ends up happening is if the parents do not meet their needs, their physical and emotional needs, then that openness, that energetic permeability which allows them to survive never seals up. And in cases where you have abuse or even just like codependence, just where there isn't, where there's major psychological and emotional dysfunction, emotional abandonment, you end up having these children actually go further and start to create even more empathic intuitive abilities, because if they don't know what mom and dad is about to do and they can't get ahead of it and predict how to act and behave in order to get the best reaction, they could get hurt. If daddy is has anger issues and blows up and beats the kids, then you better know how dad is feeling. So you have to put those feelers out. If dad's in a bad mood, you better get out of the way. If dad's in a happy place, you better figure out what to do. Otherwise, you might get beat up or you won't get loved. And then they go out into the world and they become people pleasers, or on the other side, they become narcissists. We'll get into that in a moment. So do you have intense social anxiety? Are you an empath? Do you feel everybody's feelings? Do you have a strong desire to feel needed? You have an intense desire to get your value by making other people feel better. In fact, do you feel uncomfortable if you're not actively doing something to help, to heal, to make other people comfortable? This is a sign that you have an identity emptiness crisis. Do you vacillate between feelings of superiority and inferiority? I see this in a lot of people who want to talk about becoming awakened. And in fact, whenever I see that, if you're going to put on your comments or you're going to email me and talk to me about how you have been awakened since, the past 2 years or whatever it is, I'm just telling you, I'm going to be sure that you're not awakened. Because that's that feeling of superiority. That black and white of, I was asleep, now I'm awake. And everybody out there is awake or asleep, and you're one or the other. This is very childish. This is how children think. This is how toddlers think. It means that your identity is not mature enough to understand that there's a scale and you are somewhere in that scale. There are some things you do that are better than other people and some things that aren't as good. But you're not, there's not superior and inferior. So if you have those kinds of thoughts, black and white thinking, this is a sign that your identity is fractured or empty. Here's a big one. Do you find it difficult to follow through on your goals? You have like a goal board and I'm going to become this and I'm going to do that, and you can't follow through. Not being able to follow through on your goals is the biggest sign that your identity is in crisis. Do you suffer from depression? Depression isn't just feeling sad. Your parents die, loved one dies, you're sad. You might be really, really, really sad. That's not depression. Depression is, it's usually a state of, you go through life in sort of a catatonic way. You can't really do anything. You live in this fog. Everything is fuzzy. You're tired all the time. You sleep all the time. You might have some kind of physical issue like fibromyalgia or one of those other diseases, chronic fatigue, those kinds of things. That can be a sign that you have a chronically empty identity. One of the best definition of depression I've heard was, depression is when you cannot imagine a future for yourself. Being able to imagine a future means that you have a sense of self. I'm not talking about a flood of right now, I'm totally excited about this. A consistent ability to view a future for yourself. You create a goal, you have that today, you wake up tomorrow, you have that same goal, you have that same definition of who you are and where you're going. So depression is a sign that your identity might be fractured. Inability to be alone. This is similar to fear of abandonment, but you can't stand being by yourself. I remember a woman that I dated 15 years ago, something like that. She was one of these people that couldn't stand to be alone. She was always in a relationship, and as soon as one relationship would end, she'd go find another one. She had to have the TV on in her house. She had to, there had to be human voices in her house all the time. So even if she was in the other room doing the laundry or who knows whatever, the TV was blasting. She wasn't watching anything, she just needed to not be alone. She couldn't tolerate being alone. Suicide, obviously people who take actions. I'm not talking about, you had a bad day and you think about it once. I'm not even talking about, having multiple periods where the thought has come to you. I'm talking about where you have strong ideas about suicide and you've taken action towards it, or do things like harm yourself, cutting yourself. Drug addiction is a sign of it's a suicidal act. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, drug abuse. These are suicidal actions that show that you have a fractured identity. You don't know who you are. Loneliness, which is not the same as the inability to be alone. You can be alone and be very lonely. You can also be alone and not be lonely at all. You can also be in a room full of people and still feel completely, totally alone. So this is the feeling of empty loneliness. And then the final one, which is the core of all of it, is shame. Shame, it means that you don't feel you deserve to live, that you're not good enough to live. And here's how this works. The identity is formed between, I don't know the exact age, but it's when you're an infant and a toddler. This is when your identity is formed. If during that crucial time of infanthood through toddler ages, if the parents are not able to give to the child a sense of their identity, it's going to result in a fractured identity, which can be debilitating for the rest of their lives. The shame is when what happens is whatever the parent's dysfunction, either they're abusive or they're neglectful. They'll neglect the child's emotional needs or just physical needs, just neglect them altogether. What this creates is that the child ends up feeling unworthy. And this is at the deepest level of their being. They feel unworthy, and in fact, their reality has proven it to them. So this isn't just like walking up to somebody who says, I don't feel worthy, and saying, of course you feel worthy. Stop thinking that way. We're talking about an infant or a toddler. They can't do that. They know for a fact they're not worthy because their parents are not giving them the love and attention they deserve. And so they turn that anger. Because what happens is you get angry towards your parents, but your parents are like God, and you need them to survive. And there's all kinds of other psychological things that are built into us to worship our parents when we're tiny. So when you're worshiping your parents and they're not loving you, the only other possibility is that there's something wrong with you. It's your fault. So you turn shame on. If you're in a position where your parent actually does shame you, then you don't even have to imagine it. It's just really clear. You just get that message, you're not good enough. This is the core of it. The core of it is shame. And so what ends up happening is that, unless the person is able to find help and work on it throughout, may take years, what ends up happening is they go into adulthood with this lack of identity. They don't know who they are. And so they try to create identities. And so what ends up happening is that anger that was supposed to go towards the parents for abusing them or not loving them gets turned inward, and they attack themselves because they can't attack God because they need God to survive. They turn it on themselves. Sounds a lot like organized religion. That's why organized religion took hold. It's because we went through this period, for reasons I won't get into, where we walked away from our ancestral identity of who we were as humans, our connection to nature, our connection to the entities, the gods, the goddesses, powers of nature, and ourselves. And this created a vacuum, and uh, monotheist, guilt-ridden Christianity came in and took over. And that's exactly what Christianity says, that you're born in sin. It tells you that from the moment you were born, that you're worthless and deserving of death, and that there's nothing you can do to make yourself worthy. And the only way to escape this is if you accept the ritual murder of God's perfect Son, who did nothing wrong and who did not choose. It's very clear, he did not choose, he was told to do it. He allowed himself to take all of the wrath, the anger of God on him for you. And now you're saved, but now there's all this guilt on you. That is the essence of toxic families. So now you know why we live in such a toxic world, why people are so broken and there's so much pain and misery. This has gotten worse over time because of our dependence and addiction on superficial means of connecting, which is right now. You're looking at me, you're not really talking to me, you're only talking to a recording of me. YouTube, Facebook, television, movies, video games. These are all ways that actually keep the brain from functioning. And so not only do we have people who don't have identities, but their brains are not fully developed. I could go into how different it was when I was a kid, but even then, there was enough technology that kept us from knowing who we were and learning how to connect and create bonds that keep us healthy and give us the ability to take action. This all comes down to, if you suffer from this, then there's a very good chance that you have difficulty taking action on your positive thoughts and vibrations. And the universe, I'm here to tell you, I wish it were different. I wish it was just, I have a happy thought, everything's going to be okay. I wish it were that easy. Because if it was, I'd do it. I'd have mastered it. It's not. What I have begun to master is understanding the kinds of actions that you take in order to get the universe to respond. I'll make it very quick. You came here with a soul desire. The universe is your servant, and you told the universe, I'm coming here to achieve this. Whenever I take action towards this goal, I want you to give me whatever resources are necessary. And the universe must obey, because the universe is your servant. But you also, and this is different on varying levels with different people, but if you told the universe, and I don't want you to give me anything if I'm not following my true happiness, because I always want to be reminded of what my true happiness is. So don't give me things, because I don't want to get lost in illusion and forget why I came here. So if you live in a world where you are trying to intend and you're doing things, you're following the law of attraction, you're following your religion, you're doing your meditations, you're doing all of the spiritual stuff, but for some reason you can't seem to manifest anything in your life or get your needs met. That's the universe saying, I want to help you, but you told me you wanted to do this, and instead you're doing that. So my hands are tied. Again, neo.thunderwizard.com will teach you all about that. So what I've learned now is that not only must you have a sense of self, an identity, because when you have the epiphany and you're meditating or you're going to the workshop or you're listening to me or you're doing whatever it is, and you get the epiphany and you go, oh my God, I know what I want. I know what I'm supposed to do. And you make a plan. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to start teaching this, I'm going to get certified in that, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is that you say. If you don't have an identity, what ends up happening is you can't take action on it. And those are the most frustrating and sad scenarios for me, because for me, I want to know, tell me what actions to take and I'll take them. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I have figured out for myself how to do that, and I've helped others. Everybody who has followed my directions to the letter, every single one of them has improved, and some people have gotten everything that they've wanted and continue to get it. The people who that I've worked with that have not been able to rise out of their problems are people who cannot consistently put into action the directions that I give them. And that comes from you, by the way. I don't sit here and go, what you need to do is, that's not how it works. I ask you a bunch of questions, and together we find out what it is you truly want. And then I help you to create a plan of action. But one of the main things that happens, I mean, there's unconscious resistance and, the fear of success. We don't have a fear of failure, we have a fear of success. The fear of success, the natural fear and the feeling of dying to yourself as you evolve and go beyond your limitations. There's also people who, when they start to take action, or even sometimes think about taking action towards what they want, they become gripped with absolute terror. They'll go deep into a depression that forbids them from doing anything. I wasn't completely clear on what was happening with those people. I was beating my head against a wall, and I'm not talking to anybody listening to me now. But I beat my head against the wall with some people and wondering why the heck can't they just follow through on what they said they wanted to do. They know it's very simple. I'm going to get on and create a Facebook page. I'm going to get on and make a phone call. I'm going to go, sometimes it's very simple. And just the thought of doing that fills them with so much dread that they can't function. And there are some that forget. I'll talk with them for an hour, and we work together once a month or a couple times a month, and we do this and we do that, and next time I want you to tell me that you did this, 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 and this. Very simple things. Just do those 4 things and let's talk about it. 2 weeks later, when our session comes up, they're talking exactly the same way that they did, and I'm like, what happened to all the things that we talked about you were going to do? Oh, I forgot. Well, we've been talking about that for months, and you haven't taken any action. Why is that? That used to really frustrate me because it's very simple for me. Just take action on that. Now I understand that if somebody's sense of self is either non-existent or really, really damaged, or not fully developed, like nowhere near what we're meant to have, then what happens is those thoughts, those feelings, those goals, those intentions have no place to take root. And so as soon as you have them, they disappear. So this is the person who's constantly coming up with new things to do, and they never follow through and finish anything that they started. And they'll take a couple of steps towards it, and then they just give up. Or worse yet, they never take any action ever. Now I understand. Because without a sense of self, your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions, your goals, your commitments to other people, relationships, it has no place to anchor. And then you have extremes like narcissism and extreme codependence and a bunch of other things out there that I won't get into. Really serious psychological issues that prevent people from being able to follow through. So the good news is that there are methods and there are ways that you can overcome this emptiness. Sometimes you even have to learn how to live with that emptiness. But if you are able to be conscious of what it is your thoughts and your feelings are, and sometimes you don't even have to have that, if you know what actions to take, you can take those actions and act like somebody who does have an identity, and the universe responds as though you do. Okay? So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to thunderwizard.com. You're going to go and you're going to scroll down on the right side of the page and you're going to click on Manifestation Mastery Course and you're going to subscribe. And then you're going to look for video 42B, which I believe this is 42A. And you are going to watch the rest of this teaching, and I'm going to teach you specific methods that, if you apply them, can begin the healing process to heal your identity. Heal your identity so that you can move forward, so that your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions, your goals can take root in a sense of self. It'll be there for you. It's like putting money in a bank, and it grows with interest, and you can withdraw and still continue to take action. Not having a sense of self is like putting your money in a bank that's just a black hole. You take your resources, your money, your energy, your desires, and you put it in the bank, and you put it in a safety deposit box and close the door. And then you come back the next day wanting to withdraw from that so you can take action, and you open it up and all the money's gone. Sense of self will hold on to your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions, your goals, and then you will be able to wake up the next day, anchor yourself in that, and keep going. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to do that. The reason why you're going to subscribe, yes, it's going to cost you money. It's a monthly subscription. The reason why you're going to subscribe is because you're serious. You're tired of the garbage. Listen, I am not here to give you cotton candy. Cotton candy tastes good. If I had cotton candy and ate it right now, it would probably taste good to me. But it has nothing. It has no nutritional value, and all that happens is it rots your teeth out and it makes you sick on a bunch of other levels. This is the law of attraction when it's incomplete. Just think happy thoughts. Just make sure that you're having good positive vibrations and feelings all the time. Everything is love and light, love and light, love and light. That's cotton candy. It tastes good for a while. Might even give you a little bit of energy for a couple of hours. But if you try and live off that, you will die. It's toxic. So, you're going to go to thunderwizard.com, scroll down to Manifestation Mastery Course. You're going to subscribe. Look, if it doesn't work out for you, you're going to have access to all of the shamanism videos, master shamanism videos on energy, ritual, the gods, runes, qigong, hundreds and hundreds of hours. And you'll have access to all the other 41 previous videos in the Manifestation Mastery Course about how to manifest your dreams. You're going to go and you're going to subscribe, and if you don't like it, unsubscribe. What have you lost? About what it would cost you to buy a coffee every day. So, I'll see you over at thunderwizard.com at the Manifestation Mastery Course, and then we are going to talk about very simple, powerful techniques that you can use to rebuild and empower your identity so that even if you have that emptiness within you, you can work past it and begin to heal it, and more importantly, be able to take consistent action and see the results in your life. Okay, I'll see you over there.